Hi, this is Tim Wendell with Grant Writers, and what I'd like to touch upon a little bit today is sentence length. Seems kind of run-of-the-mill every day, but I think in varying your sentence length will help keep the reader engaged. And I want to dive deep, somewhat deep, into just one paragraph that Joan Didion wrote, and I think this is why it's great in all your spare time to be reading a little bit outside whatever world or your research is doing, because in a sense, simply looking at different work will help you in terms of sentence length. Now, this is one paragraph, and one reason I'm stressing sentence length is I've kind of become convinced over the years all of us tend to write a certain length of sentence, especially when we're tired. My sentences tend to get kind of short and cryptic when I'm tired. And one thing you're trying to do is, if we want your application to be really readable, a joy for people to go through, you have to vary the sentence length. Look at this opening paragraph. This is from a story that Didion did called Some Dreamers of the Golden Dream. And I've kind of highlighted it in different colors. And you can see the variance here in terms of length. That second line is really long. We'll get into that in a minute, and I'm not suggesting go that long in an application. But you can see how it varies that much. And in doing so, it helps keep the reader engaged. So you break this down. It's only 6 sentences in total. Only 2, I would argue, are of similar length. You could make an argument for 2 others, maybe. But all of this works together because they vary the length and they balance each other. It keeps the reader interested and results in a memorable passage of quality writing. Again, the reader is engaged. You're going, wow, this was a lot of fun to read. And when somebody says that, I think often if you look back and look at the overall work, each sentence is somewhat varied in the way it's set up and certainly how many words it contains. So we'll break it down. You have the first sentence. This is tension grabbing. It hooks. It's something you can do to help hook a reader is add a second and. A story about love and death in the Golden Land and begins. The construction is maybe passive or almost passive in tone, but I think people will buy in because it hooks the reader. Here's that longish sentence, and yep, this is a mouthful, and I'm not recommending this. I would certainly have, if I was writing it, have broken it up. But it does 2 things. It's really, as you'll see in the transitions YouTube, it's a bridge sentence in a way. It's taking us from one area to another, and it's playing against stereotype to a certain degree too. It's taking us from what we all, or most of us, think of as California, you know, the subtropical twilights and the beaches and all this, and it's taking us to a much more different California, kind of over the mountains near the Mojave. Getting into trouble. And one of the things it does very well is, besides taking us from a stereotypical place or image of California, it takes us now with the use of consonants and also just word choice into this different place. If you want to get really deep into it, and reach out to me if you'd like, but just think of it when it comes to consonants. Soft consonants kind of reassure or put the reader at ease, like S's and C's and W's and TW's, which you see here. Hard consonants can be kind of jarring, P's and K's and D's. So one thing you've got to remember with writing is whatever works is probably not going to work forever. So some may be wondering, well, I want my reader to be settled at ease. I should be using soft consonants all the time. If you use them too much, you're going to put them to sleep. They aren't going to make it really to the end of your application or what you're submitting in a very engaged way. So flip that around. Maybe I should be using hard consonants all the time. If you use hard consonants all the time, the D's and the P's and the T's, it can be almost too jarring. It wears the reader out. So be thinking about where you want the reader to be kind of settled in and where you want the reader to kind of be on the edge of their seat, and you alternate between those 2. Third sentence, again, borderline, maybe borderline declarative, and it kind of follows up the previous one. You can't follow up a sentence of this length or even comparable in this way with another longish sentence. You've got to throw the reader a bone, and here we've got a medium-sized sentence. It allows the reader to kind of, okay, I'm with you now. You're letting them up for air, and in a sense allows them to stay engaged with the writing. Fourth line, shorter yet, straight tell. Difference between show and tell. Tell, and it helps the reader really kind of understand there's been no rain since April. If you look at what the gist of this has been, if there's been no rain since April, that means, the fires and just the overall urgency and trouble on the horizon for this part of the world is coming. When I look at this, I'm thinking, boy, I could almost end this paragraph with this. But Didion doesn't. She adds another line, even a little bit shorter, and arguably maybe her most memorable or quoted sentences. If you look up Joan Didion quotations, this pops all the time. And short sentences at the end of paragraphs will spike things, meaning it'll really keep the reader engaged. And just think if you'd ended this paragraph with another longish sentence like number 2, probably wouldn't have worked that well. But Didion, being the great writer she is, she can't let it go. She's going to give us one more. And it's very much an echo of that first line. And we're back to the use of a second and. It's a season of suicide and divorce and prickly dread. And Didion doesn't use a lot of modifiers, meaning adjectives and adverbs. So the fact she's put one in here, prickly dread, really, again, allows the reader, it's an indication to the reader, something special going on here, something unusual. So I would use adjectives, adverbs, overall modifiers sparingly, but when you really want to underscore something, that can work for you. Let's just diagram it out. And if you'd like, I can direct you to where, this entire story. It's a really very interesting story. But this is just one paragraph, and see how sentence length has changed. Sentence 1 is medium. Sentence 2, that's that long and winding, probably way too long one sentence. Sentence 3, medium to long. It's a respite after that longish one. Fourth line, short and informative. Fifth one, short, sweet, and memorable. 6, a final note that is probably medium in length and echoes the first. It's fun. I want to do this in early drafts, but when you're doing revision, and I would leave time for revision, go back through and see how long your sentences are. And I would vary them. It's a great way to keep the reader on board. I'm Tim Wendell. Reach out to me if you've got any questions on this, but this can be a very useful tool for your applications. Thanks.